So yesterday we started our discussion on the interfaces. We said interface into the prototype. That is, interface will consist only of the abstract methods and constant values. And the constants they are static and finite. By default, constant is final, it is static also. Now, let's say you're defining a protocol for a leave management system when the minimum leaves an employee can apply is 1 and the maximum number of leaves that an employee can apply is 30. So you've got the method called apply leave, cancel leave. That is, if you are developing the system, I want these two operations to be implemented. One is you should be able to apply the leave. The second one is you should be able to cancel the leave. Now over here you have got employee file system. You have got file name and the maximum size for the file. I'm writing the code to apply the leave and then I'm again writing the code to cancel the leave. If you see employee file system, I am implementing this interface, that is I am fulfilling this requirement, but the database but the storage what I am taking but the storage that is being used to store the data is file system. So over here I'm storing the data into the file system. Now you've got another user or another programmer. He is also implementing the same employee interface. Over here, he is also writing the same code, but when he is writing the code, his data will move to database. That is, if you see, for the same interface, you have got two different implementation. For the same interface, you have got two different implementation. So when it comes to interfaces, when a class is implementing the interface, it is up to that class or it is up to the programmer how do they write the code. Over here we are driving the code to the file system, over here we are driving the code to the database. Clear on this? Okay, fine. Now next work on JDBC, that is how to store the data that is into the database, how to interact to the database from the Java program. JDBC stands for the Java Database Connectivity. It is a protocol that will help your Java program to interact with the databases. Now, in the real time, how it happens is you've got the front end application. Let's say you've got the field something X and some Y field. Whenever the user enters the data into the field and hits enter the submit button, the data is stored into the database. Now, because this Java it is a different system and the database it is a different system. The two different systems that are running on altogether different hardware and the software will interact with each other because your Java will understand in terms of objects, but whereas your database will understand in terms of SQL. But before I proceed to the JDBC, I would like to ask you a question. Do you have idea on SQL, structured query language? Okay, Roma says yes, Mandil says yes. Hira, do you have idea on SQL? Okay, fine, sir. Thank you. Then no issues. I can proceed. Now, so over here, driver is the piece of software that will help you communicate with the database. And again, we have got four types of driver: type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. Uh, the driver architecture, we will discuss it most probably in the next class. Now let us understand the execution. Most of the time you will be using the type 4 driver. Like, what is the purpose of all these four drivers? I'll just make a recorded session available on this. Now, your database might be installed on some server. Let's say your database is installed on this server 192.168.30.2. It might be some XYZ server, and the port on which the service is running is 1521. Your database is installed on the server, that is the server IP address something XYZ, and your database service is running on the port number 22. Your database name is XE. Your database name is XE. So we require all these three parameters. That is, you require the IP address. That is, if you want to connect to the database from your Java program, you require three parameters. One is you need to provide the IP address. Second is you need to provide the port on which the database is running. Third one is you need to provide the service name. So when two different systems, when they have to communicate with each other over the network, then we need to establish the connection between them. So in order to establish the connection between your Java program and the database, you have got a class called driver manager dot get connection. To this you'll pass three things: URL, username, and then the password. Roma, could you please elaborate your question? What is the requirement? I could hear the last two options. I did not get. Can you just elaborate? Okay, first is IP address. Second one is port number. First one is IP address. Second is port number 1521. So first step what you have to do is, as you see, all the communication is being performed by the driver. You have got four types of driver: type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. You have to specify which driver will help you to communicate with the database, whether it is type 1 or type 2 or type 3 or type 4. We have got four options, or we have got four choices: type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. You need to be specific which driver will help you to communicate with the database, whether it is type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. After you have selected the driver, let's say I select type 4 driver. After we have selected the driver, you need to establish the connection with the database. So whichever driver you have registered, let's say I have registered driver 4. So you have got a class called driver manager. You've got a class called driver manager.get connection. So that part, the driver which we have registered or which we are using, that driver or the driver manager will help you to establish the connection with the database. That is, you need to pass the URL, you need to pass username, and you need to pass password. Once it is passed, a connection is established. Now, once the connection is established, you need to execute the SQL statements. In order to execute the SQL statement on to the SQL side, you are provided with the statement object. Statement stmt is equal to con.create statement. So with the help of this statement object, it will help you build the SQL statements and then execute them onto the database with the help of the driver. I repeat, with the help of the connection object, with the help of the connection object, you create a statement object. This statement object will help you to build the SQL statements to be executed onto the SQL side, onto the server side, with the help of the driver we have registered with. Now, if you see this one will help you create the statement. Select star from employee. You have created the statement, and when you are calling this execute query method, with the help of the driver, the statement is shipped to the database and the driver will extract your SQL statement and execute it onto the database. The driver will extract this select star from EMP and execute it onto the database. Once the statement is executed onto the database, you get this result set. Now this result set should move from the database to the Java program. So the intermediate or the mediator what we have in between and the broker what we have in between is the driver. So the driver will help you ship this result set. The driver will help you to ship this result set to the Java program. And the one thing what we have to understand is your database or the SQL products, it gives the information or it gives the output in the tabular format. I repeat, the database products will give the output for the query in a tabular format, but that is, it understands in terms of rows and columns. But your Java program, it understands only in terms of object. In order to make the Java program understand, or in order to make the Java program interpret the result set that has been generated, or the result that has been generated, or the table that has been generated, we take help of the driver. This driver will encapsulate the result set, will encapsulate this result or this table into the result set object. And this result set object along with the data is shipped to the Java program. Clear with this? Is it clear so far? Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah, let us complete the explanation part first. Post that we will come to the example. You'll not be able to understand the example if you don't have idea on the working of the JDBC. Now, in the Java program, you will have or you will get access to this result set. Now, let us understand how to retrieve this data in your Java program. Now, this is the result set that has been generated. This is the result set that has been generated, and this is what is passed to the Java program. If you observe, the first and the last column does not have any data. It contains null value. If you can observe, the first and the last does not have any data. Now, when you are trying to get the data from the first row, rs.next, you'll not get any stuff. What you have to do is you need to move this pointer to the next row. When you call rs.next, it moves the pointer to the next row. I repeat, in the beginning, the result set pointer will point to the first row, wherein you don't have any data. In order to extract the data, the result set pointer should be moved to the next row. We move the result set pointer to the next row by invoking rs.next. Once rs.next is invoked, your result set pointer moves to the next row, wherein you can extract the data. Now, this is the first column and this is the second column. Now, if I want to extract the data, what I'll do is rs dot get what is that? Get string. rs.getString of 1 just hold on for a second. rs.getString of 1 will give you Jack, and rs.getString of 2 will give you. Clear with this? Any doubt in this? How to extract the views? Now, similarly, if you have to move the pointer to the next row, you should call rs.next. rs.next will move the pointer to the next row. It will move the pointer to the next row. Once you move the pointer to the next row, again you need to repeat the same operation. That is rs.getString of 1. Same steps has to be repeated. But this time rs.getString will retrieve Mike. And then rs.getString of 2 will retrieve mike@gmail.com. Clear on this? Any doubt? And when you go rs.next, if it does not have any data, it will return false. rs.next, when you move to the last one, if you don't have any data, it returns false and you can stop at that point. Now we said, okay, we have got JDBC API, that is a set of library that will help you to communicate with the database. The first one what you have is java.sql.connection, and all the JDBC API method is present in java.sql package. The first class, the first interface what we are discussing is java.sql.connection interface. This will help you to establish the connection, and if you observe connection con is equal to driver manager to get connection, you are really specifying username and then the password. And in the second step, what you have is you require the helper statement interface to build and execute your SQL statements. Statement is equal to con.create statement will create a statement object. Then you can use any of the methods, that is execute query, execute update, or execute. Based on the requirement, you can use any of the methods that are provided by the SQL statement to execute or to process your SQL statements. Then result set, as discussed, it is an object representing the database result set. Whenever a static statement is executed, then a result set is returned to the Java program. This we have already done. Now, let's say I want to insert a record. The first step what I have to do is class.forName. First you need to load the driver. In the beginning we discussed, okay, we have got 4 type of drivers, type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4. So which driver you are using, whether you're using type 1 or you're using type 2 or type 3 and type 4. These type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4 drivers, they have got name. So using the driver name you need to load them. So over here we are using the Derby database and type 4 driver. And the driver name is org.apache.derby.client driver. So once the driver has been selected, next you need to establish the connection to the database. Over here, if you observe this, your JDBC, it is the protocol. JDBC is the protocol, and Derby is the database name. Derby is the product. Localhost is the name of the server on which the database is installed. Because the database is installed on the same machine, we use localhost. If the database is on the another machine, you cannot use localhost. You need to provide the IP address of the server where the database is installed. And then next is the port on which the database is running. The default port on which the Derby database runs is 1527. And then next you have got the database name. And then next you have got database name. Is it clear? The first one is the protocol. You are using JDBC protocol. The second one is the Derby database, the name of the database. Third one is the localhost, IP address, then the port number, and then the database name itself. And then you are creating the statement object. Execute update, insert into new, employee ID, first name, you can just insert some XYZ values. If the statement is executed successfully, it will return an integer value which says number of rows that have been updated. And then it'll print row 1 inserted or row 2 inserted, whatever it is. Close the statement object, close the connection object, and your program completes its execution. Is it clear? Steps are clear. So these are the steps what we require in order to establish the connection with the database. Is it clear? Integer count. Integer count will return you the number of rows that have been updated. Let's say 2 rows updated. So it will return the value 2. If 10 rows have been updated, execute update will return the value as 10. And that value we are storing it in a variable. Manjil, does this answer your question? Count. Okay, fine. You can select any database of your choice, whichever database you are familiar with. You go ahead with that database. This NetBeans, it provides you with the default database, that is the Derby database. I'm just using it for convenience sake. So if you know how to create a table, well and good. Just hold on for a second, let me delete all these tables. Right click, refresh, click on this table, right click, and then create table. Let's say Yes. Check whether the Eclipse it provides the IDE for Derby or not. I did not test, but you just check it okay, whether the IDE for UI is provided for creating database, Derby database, or else okay, you can just pick up any database of your choice, whichever you are familiar with. Now, how to work on this? Let's say you want to create a table for this one. Question ID, question number, image path, and then question text. So I want to record this data. Question ID is your primary key. Auto question should have the same primary key. And question ID, question question ID and question number for what they're using. You're not required. Image path, and question text. And then click OK. It is created. Now you need to enter the details in the database. First step is you need to create the table. In the second step, you go to the windows and then go to the services. Let me close this tab. So you go to the windows and then go to the services. Once you go to this, you will get the database link. This will be something of this type. Go to this Derby, right click and then say connect because it is already connected. Let me just connect. Go to this say connect. Once you say connect, you can expand this node. You are done. Now, JDBC. Over here. DMP, let me write it. Sorry, what is that? Sorry, question. Question DAO. data access object. Just hold on for a second. Now, next what we have is, in order to connect to the database, as discussed, you require driver name. So from where do you learn what is the driver name? So under NetBeans, it is a bit easy to retrieve all the details that are required to. So in NetBeans, it is easy to retrieve all the details that are required to establish the connection to the database. Now let us discuss that. You go to the Services tab. Once you go to the Services tab, right-click on this connection string and then select Properties. Once you select the properties, over here you can retrieve all the details. First, let us start with the driver name. So this is the driver name. This is the name what you require. Click onto the select symbol and copy the driver name. And then next what you have is URL. Again, click on this, right click and then select properties. This is your URL. And the username, the default username is app and the default password is app. So these are the details what you require to establish the connection with the database. Format. Clear with this? Now check whether you are able to establish the connection or not. Just write a main method, public static void main. First you need to load the driver class. So everything should be everything should be inside the command because we have just copied it because we require it in our application. If you don't want this code to be executed, you need to just comment it. First is load the driver. So you have got a class by name class. This class, it has got a static method called for name that will help you to load the driver class. So you have got the driver name, copy it, then paste it. It will throw certain types of error messages. I'll just go with throws. As of now, later on, because we did not complete try and catch, I cannot discuss on this. Time being, you just remember that You need to add this code. That's it. I'll explain you why do we do that. And the second step is check for the connection object. Connection con is equal to driver manager dot get connection. Driver manager. Provide the URL. Username we have already recorded, it is app, and again password is app. That is the default username and password for the Debbie database. App and then app. And URL is what we have already copied. This is the URL we have copied. Copy, paste. If everything goes fine, then you should be able to establish the connection with the database. Yes, we have created the column, but we did not keep any data. You will be inserting the data programmatically. One is you can directly insert the data into the table. Second is you can insert the data into the tables programmatically. So that we will be doing in the later stages. As of now, we are just learning how to establish the connection to the database with the help of JDBC API. Add input.java.sql.connection. And as discussed, if everything goes fine, it should return you a connection object. If connection is not equal to null, you just print a message connected. S out and then press Ctrl S. You just write a message called connected. Now you're done with this, and whenever it says some sort of exception, just use the throw clause. Now, when you are trying to execute, it gives the error message class not found, that is org.apache.derby.jdbc.derby client, that it is unable to find this class. Now, in order to make this class available to the application, you should add it to the libraries folder or to the class path. Now, I right click on the libraries and then say add jar folder. Go to desktop or this PC, go to program files, and then here you have got glassfish, program files, and then you have got glassfish server installed over here. Open this java db and then lib, and then you have got this derby client. You require this file. Right click and run file. Connected. Clear with this? So these steps for establishing the connection to the database will be repeated in each and every program. Now, next what we have is, let me delete this. This is only for testing purpose. Now you need to create a statement object that will help you build and execute the SQL statement. Statement st is equal to con dot create statement. So once you have created this statement object, you can execute it. Statement dot execute update. So what you have got is insert into I think the table name was question and the values is 1 question ID and then last was question text. Question: what is polymorphism? How did you return not null? Now we are not returning not null. Our no, I did not get your question. Our DB was null. Okay, fine. The database is null means okay. What you mean is the database does not have any data in it. But over here, what we are doing is we are not inserting any data. Now look, connecting to the database is different. Performing operations on the database is different. This is just equivalent to this. You have got this under services. Let me just disconnect this. These two lines of code is equivalent to just establishing the connection. These two lines, this piece of code is used to the address. Yes, it is connected. It is not mandatory for you to enter the data. Connection is different, performing operation is different. Clear with this? It is just this way. Right click and then say disconnect. This is disconnecting. Right click and then say connect. You're connected to the database. So this is what line number 16 and line number 17 does. Does this answer your question? So yes, you are just testing the connection. Okay, image path. It was not mandatory because I'm writing something. And if you are right, and then okay, close this and then close the connection object as well. Insert it. Right click and then say run file. So if there is any error in the SQL statement, you will get this error. Okay, here I have missed a bracket. So data has been inserted. So you can go over here and verify the results. Go to the table and verify the results. Yes. Clear with this? So this is how you perform insert, update, delete. The first three steps, that is loading the driver class, establishing the connection, and then creating the statement object. These three steps are same for all your database operations. These three steps will not change. It will be the same, and you will find a change in line number 20. So, any doubts? Is it clear? Just try to practice this and implement on this. Try to implement this. This you have to implement course category, teacher, person, okay, all this. I've just shown you one example how to write the implementation code for these classes. Please write the code. So we'll wind up the session for today. If you have any doubts, you can ask, and then otherwise we will wind up the session for today. Do you have any questions? If you have any questions, please raise it. Okay, fine. Tell you never sent this. It is already okay. Fine. I will just upload it right now. It is already uploaded. Okay, just hold on for a second. I'll upload it. I think it got stuck.